Hi guys, Chris with Microsoft here with another exciting episode of What's New in Windows Server 2012. Today we're going to go backwards just a little bit and touch on a couple of things dealing a little bit semi-quasi having to do with Active Directory. We're going to talk about some of the changes in group policy. The reason I kind of pushed that off to a later discussion was just so that we had a little bit of a mix-up for anybody who's getting sick and tired of hearing me talk about IAD. So there have been a few changes to group policy management itself, and then some changes to some of the group policies. So one of the things that we now have the capability to do is actually to get kind of a status report or a health report. Right now, I am not seeing any issues. We can see status details after having run a report. Let me come in here and revert back my domain controller to a time before I've actually run the report. What you just saw was a what it looks like after having run a report once. So let's take a look at what we start off with prior to that happening. So advanced settings, let's get this back up to a nice 800 by 600 so that YouTube viewers can view this a little easier. So going into Server Manager again, and he's still recovering from that snapshot there. Getting back on track and saying, what was that? Oh my gosh. Okay, so in Group Policy Management, when you launch it up and you actually select your domain, you're going to see at first, under Domains, contoso.com in this case, that there have not been any status updates on this. No infrastructure status information exists for this domain. Clicking Detect Now will pull up problems. You see, Active Directory has the two different replication engines. Number one, it has a proprietary engine that it uses that it's just a multi-master database with convergence and a handful of conflict resolution policies, and it moves around stuff inside of AD, like your password, for instance, and your phone number. The sysvol folder, however, so contoso.com, sysvol, this is a file based replication. That is, because this was built on 2012, it's actually using DFS replication, DFSR. If your domain was built in previous versions of Windows, such as 2003 R2, you're going to be using FRS for replication. 2008 also the same thing. So anyway, this is the file-based portion of where your group policy exists. So a very small percentage of the overall bulk of group policy exists inside of Active Directory and replicates using Active Directory. Things like who gets applied what policies, but the actual policies themselves exist here. And so it's possible to have Active Directory replication doing just fine, and there not being any problems with Active Directory replication, but there be issues with the sysvol piece, either FRS if it's in journal wrap, for instance, or DFSR not properly replicating, so you get kind of out of balance. So this is a health check. Now I've got one domain controller in this environment, so there's just not a whole heck of a lot to look at, but this is how you would come through and do Detect Now, and it'll go out and run a policy. Another thing we could do here, let's create a little OU. So new organizational unit, and we'll call this one Win8. And then let's take a Windows 8 machine that we have and move it into the Win8 folder. And then let's go over here and refresh this and pull up the Win8. Right click and say let's create a new GPO and link it here. We'll call this Win8 Pol. Let's see. And so now we have a nice little group policy in here. And we'll talk about some of the new group policies that are also added in Windows 8 here in a minute. Not all of them, not an exhaustive list, but just some stuff. But let's go ahead and just put something in here for fun. So if we go into policies and then we go into admin templates, let's look at what would be a good one to start off with. How about Windows Components Sync Your Settings? Since a few people will be a little nervous about this one at first until they get used to it. So turning Sync Your Settings, and let's say let's not sync any of the Internet Explorer passwords. We could go ahead and enable Do Not Sync. And Click OK. So we've got at least something in here for fun. Now, what I can do is I can right-click on that OU and I can say Group Policy Update. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to tell me, hey, there's one computer that will be affected by this. Obviously, in most cases, there'll be more. But I can go ahead and forcefully refresh those. And, it probably would have been helpful if I turned on that machine. All right, so he has been told that the RPC call was probably failed. RPC meaning, hey, I went out and tried to talk to that guy, and he just didn't want to talk to me. Let's go ahead and, oops, I didn't mean to close that. Let me let this thing fail again so I can see the group policy update while it's trying. I'm going to go out here to my Hyper-V server, and how about we power this guy on, as that might be a little bit more useful. Alright, so he's up, he's running. Let's make sure that he knows that. Make sure I haven't gotten it. Alright, so I have RPC connectivity to it, so the remote procedure call failed miserably, basically. So let's close that. Now that it's up and running, let's see if I can get this to go. Now I just restored this from snapshot a second ago, so that could freak out the secure channel between those two. But we'll see if we can get it. Yeah, unavailable. But you can see you can actually go out and push large groups of updates to many different remote computers just for fun. Let's restore that one to a snapshot. We might try that here just in a second. I think you get the idea of this whole thing. It would be nice to see at least once it not show RPC unavailable for forcing that update. So let's go talk about a few things. We looked at one of the policies that was dealing with the synchronization of settings, so preferences, Windows settings, not Windows settings, not even preferences, policies, administrative templates. Just driving down the road here. So Windows component and the sync your settings. Obviously, that's something new in Windows 8. And sync your settings. So you can turn off all synchronization if you want, right here. You could also just decide we will have no linked accounts. In a previous episode, we talked about linked accounts and what that means for you. So if you want to block Microsoft accounts altogether, you're going to find that one under Windows settings. And then that's going to be a local security policy under the security section of the local policies. So we come under security and then go to security options. Right there, and we're going to see a block Microsoft accounts. I don't personally recommend this, but there's going to be some high security environments, or maybe some new to Windows 8 type IT departments that don't understand what a linked account is yet, and they haven't taken the time to really assess whether or not that's something they want to do. You can enable users can't add Microsoft accounts into this domain by simply checking this box. So that's definitely new. I'm not going to turn that on in my lab because I don't personally think that's a good idea to do that, because there's really nothing really critical about the synchronization. And I'm not going to go into that a whole lot of detail because most of you all that have been following these episodes with me here have already watched the episode probably where we talked about that sort of thing and what can be synced and what can't, and how it's not really all that big a deal except in really super secure environments maybe. Some other really interesting ones that you might want to take a look at are things like under the system. Maybe if I find the S's here. Where am I at? I'm lost again. So I have to collapse these. I start getting lost as where I'm at. Aha. Yeah, see system. And then under system we might see a logon. GHIJK. The logon has the ability to turn on a PIN sign-on. Some of your executives might want to have this enabled so that they just sign in with a PIN on a touchscreen. That's really big beneficial. However, a lot of people will want to use the picture password. But if you're not ready for picture password, you can actually turn that on. It's on by default. So if you don't want people using picture password to sign in, which is kind of not as secure maybe as a password, but a lot more secure than a PIN for sure. And one of the reasons that we might do that is to give some of your users with touchscreens the ability to have something easier than trying to use a touchscreen to type in a password, which actually is kind of a pain if you've ever tried it. So that's a new setting that might be of use or interest to you. Also, under Windows components, and I know I'm jumping around, and that just is what it is. I'm thinking of these as I'm thinking of them. The credential user interface has this new settings for the password reveal. If you're not familiar with the password reveal, let's see if I can do it here if I have to jump over to client. So if I lock, and then if I want to Control Delete and log back on again, and I start typing my password, you see the little eyeball, SSW0RD. If I want to see if I've got that right or not, clicking on this will show me whether or not I got my password in. So you could sneaky look around you, see if anybody's looking over your shoulder, and then click that to make sure that you've got your password right. That might not be. Oops, it's expired. And I locked this thing too. So let's see. Password, change the password. Click OK and return to the lock screen. Oh, this is okay. So this might be something new we're finding as we go. I didn't naturally read the daggum instructions here, so let's see what we need to do. So I said password, and I log in, and it says, "Hey, your password's expired. Has to be changed." I'm saying, "Okay." There we go. So let's WORD2 and PASSWORD2 and sign that sucker in. Change the password. Hey, yay, it's been changed. I need to obviously set that not to reset because I actually do use these VMs for a couple of demos and trying to log in with that. So that's the new interface for that, what we got to just see. So that's kind of cool. I love it when things happen live. So, okay, so let me think. What are some other interesting ones that you guys might want to know about? I know one. We didn't really talk about Windows to Go in the what's new in Windows Server 2012 stuff because it's really more of a client thing. But just know that there is a new way to install Windows 8 and put it on a flash drive. You can actually, if you've got a USB 3 and you got a sufficient sized and class of flash media, like maybe a class 10 or maybe you've got like a 32 gig or higher. You could take your Windows image, your WIM file that you use for your default corporate image that maybe has already got Office and your VPN software. You could actually install that out on a flash drive. There's some options that have been added in under Windows Components. I want to say it's Portable OS, LMNO, Portable OS. There it is. So allowing hibernation is off by default. So if you wanted to turn it on so that you could hibernate a Windows to Go, why would this be handy? Okay, so if I've got a flash drive, I can hand it out to multiple employees that in bad weather situations, I could actually just use their own home computer instead of having to give them a laptop. Just give them an operating system on a flash drive, send them home, and say, hey, boot up. It's got VPN software. It's got maybe the VoIP software on there. Just grab a headset or make sure your speaker and microphone are turned up on your personal machine. Bring your own device or BYOD type scenarios, hotel cubing scenarios, troubleshooting type of scenarios where you want to give your technicians some tools that they could carry around with them from machine to machine. Hibernate's off by default. Default startup options, so you can change the way that the startup control works here. So we'll also have disallow, sleep, and C states. So. Anyway, a couple of little options there if you're thinking about using the Windows to Go. Now, Windows to Go is only available for Windows 8 Enterprise. The Windows 8 Pro doesn't include Windows to Go. So just letting you know that right up front. You need to have an EA agreement or software assurance or something like that to get those kind of licenses. Some of you know that we've replaced the backup. The old legacy backup for Windows 8 is still there. It's a little bit more difficult to find. In fact, let me see. Oh, I'm not on Windows 8 right now, so it's hard for me to actually pull that up. We'll do that in a client version of what's new in Windows 8 sometime down the road. I do have plans to eventually write a couple of episodes that we're going to do for that. But to control the new file history is right up here. So turning this off, you could enable a turn off on the file history so that clients aren't actually using that. That is sort of our new strategy for Windows 8 and backups. So another setting that I don't personally agree with, but I could understand why certain IT departments might have to turn this on, might be this one right here under System, the communication management. You're going to see this internet communication settings. There's this turn off the store. So if I'm going to turn that so you guys can see this just a little bit. So the turn off access to the store, this is a new policy. So if you don't want your users, let's say that you've disallowed the ability for somebody to actually create a connected account using a Microsoft account, formerly Windows Live ID. Somebody could still open the store potentially and go and download stuff from the store and then just enter their Windows Live ID manually. That would allow them to put full screen applications on the screen here. They could get into the store. They could go and maybe put a little app on here. So this would disable access to the store altogether. Let's see. Oh, there's this one also under logon. Going back to that, turn off the. Oh, where's it at? So there should be one in here. The animation, the startup animation. I'm sure it's in here, and I'm just not seeing it. It's show first sign in animation right there. Sorry, I could not find it. I was thinking it was turn off something, but it's actually show first sign in animation. We could actually turn that off. So if you haven't built a Windows 8 machine yet, there's a kind of a neat little, hey, here's how you use Windows. Go to any quadrant with the mouse, and we're getting things ready. And it's got kind of a pulsating screen that goes from purple to green to blue and stuff like that. This is first sign on animation. You could turn that off. I wouldn't recommend it because your users that have never touched Windows 8 before may need just a quick little intro to tell them, hey, it's okay. You can still use your mouse very, very effectively in Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012. You just need to know to remember to use the corners. So that's kind of their reminder for that. But if you need to turn it off right there. So we've got a new one also under System that has to do with customizing the access denied screen. So it's under access denied assistance right up here. So we can enable access denied assistance on client for all file types. We can customize the message for the error to allow you to put like links and text in to tell the person, hey, you don't have access to this folder. But here's something you could do about that. So that's kind of a neat new little setting that we have. Yeah. So okay. So this is a very small subset. There's a little over 175 new group policies that are only relevant to Windows Server 2012 and Windows 8 that are new. And I don't want to sit here and go through all of them, and I don't think you'd want to sit through that either. We're already up to over 17 minutes, coming up on 18 minutes. So those are some of the more interesting ones. So probably the ones that I imagine that people will be using. So I'm going to stop there, and I'll put in my blog the rest of those as a kind of quick reference and which ones are new and where you'd find them, whether they're user or computer policies, and a little mini description of each of those too. So we'll rely on that to get you kind of the video to get you a quick little intro to some of the changes in group policy, and then we'll use the rest for just as a text-based reference for you. So anyway, guys, this has been Chris with Microsoft, and as always, thanks for watching. If you did find anything about this useful or interesting to you, please take the second that it takes to give it a quick like and the link that looks like a little thumbs up icon below, and feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'd love to have a new little number pop up on my thing saying that I've got an extra subscriber. That'd be great. Anyway, my blog is at 9z.com. Real easy to remember. It's just the last number and the last letter .com. So that's got links to my Facebook, my LinkedIn, my Twitter. And so again, thanks a ton for listening, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.